welcome back to season four. Welcome back to What the Fertility, season
Like,
four. Can you believe we've done this? This is our fourth year podcasting.
that's literally wild. Like,
It's
what?
it's so weird. And like I know that all like everything that could have happened for us happened once we stopped recording season three. And I was just thinking of like how like shitty this is gonna be for you to like tell all. But I am remembering back to season one and remember you had just given birth to Ben like 2 days before we recorded, and my
Literally,
transfer had the chemical
yeah.
pregnancy. Like
Yeah.
it's just crazy, like the mindset shifts year over year.
Oh, it's so weird. Like, so weird. Just everything constantly changes. But like that's like the reality of what infertility is. Like
Yeah.
every season changes, every cycle changes. Like you genuinely just have no idea what the hell is coming.
Yeah,
Like
and like
honestly.
how we show up in every season. I think season one was like so we were so still in it. Like although you had just had been like this was the first time we were telling our story and like we were meeting people. And then season two, I feel like we were just done. But we were like showing up to listen. And then
Yeah,
season
yeah.
three was all about like, okay, we're doing this again. And I feel like
Yeah.
season four, I mean, gosh, I know at least in your experience, like you can probably relate to so many more listeners now with everything you went through last year. Cause like you went through
Yeah.
probably everything you could go through last year.
Literally. Yeah, no, for sure. I feel like I have like a completely new perspective on all of this. And even for the people that like wind up closing the chapter and like don't necessarily get there like happily ever after, I just like relate and like empathize so much more than I think I ever
Yeah.
even I could. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Because while you had a loss, which is horrific and devastating, your experience with IVF transfers, it was success on the first
oh,
try, really.
oh,
And
yeah.
then you went through like, gosh, I mean, the whole year of IVF last year. So,
Yeah.
where do we start?
I mean, we can start with you because it's all happy. I mean, like you're pregnant.
With
Woohoo!
our updates, I know. But also like before we do that, I mean, I'm sure people have to be thinking like what an interesting dynamic too. Like with you and I doing this together and being so close, like I feel so horrible.
No, and I've told you this so many times.
I know.
Like, there's anyone that I would not quote unquote hate when they're pregnant, it's you. I mean, like,
Well, and I
you
felt
are
this.
well deserved to have a baby after all your freaking losses. Like, come on. Like,
Well,
no.
I appreciate that, but I know the dynamic's weird, and I think it was flipped in season one. Like you had just had like your miracle child, and I'm like coming off my sixth miscarriage. IVF didn't work, and I'm like thrilled for you. But it's just such an interesting dynamic when you have friends in this space, you work with people that I always hear like the jokes on Instagram. You have like your Instagram friends that like are going through IVF at the same time, and then people get like the different outcomes, and they're like, "What do I do now?"
Oh,
Um,
yeah. You like
yeah.
feel so bad because you know what they've like been going through and how desperate they want it. But then, of course, you're like excited for yourself because like you wanted this so bad too. So it's just like, yeah, it's
It's
a
yeah,
weird dynamic for
it's
sure.
weird. Well, I will, I guess, try to share what happened. I mean, last year, like quick recap, if you've never heard us before, I'm Kat. That's
I'm Amanda.
and go back to season one, listen to our first episode so you can kind of get caught up to speed. Really, nothing happened between like our fertility journeys on episode one until this year, which will hopefully, I guess, just quickly recap 2024. For me, my daughter was 18 months old. We were not ready to, like, we wanted another kid, but like we just were too scared. And we, like everybody hates the quote unquote accidentally got pregnant. I think when you go through infertility or you go through miscarriage, you never want to get on birth control again. At least I didn't. I think Amanda, you might have like a different like outlook on that. Just and I think too, women that have embryos left, that they're like, I'm gonna get on birth control because I want to use my embryos. But for us, we didn't have any embryos left. So long story short, we got pregnant. That pregnancy was a freaking roller coaster. I made it to like 8.5 weeks. Amanda, you're my biggest cheerleader. Like, and you literally, if you guys follow us on Instagram, Amanda did her transfer, what, like 2 days before I found out I was pregnant, or it was like right aligned.
It was the weirdest thing. It was so wild. So we technically got pregnant together
Yes.
in May.
in May. And I totally felt like I was stealing your thunder. It was so annoying because you had waited all year to do that like you had waited 2, 3 years to do that transfer. And then I accidentally get pregnant.
Counting down so hard.
Yeah, and I'll let you share your experience with May, but for me, I mean, we had decent betas. Like looking back, they were lower than my daughter and they're lower than this pregnancy, but they weren't bad. I mean, they were like 400, 900 in the thousands and they were doubling. We got the heartbeat. I kind of always was like, I think I always texted you, it's a miscarriage because the gestational sac was always like a week behind. And the doctors don't even like they never said it was a concern, but I think when you've like had so much loss or when you just like you just know, I was like, this just
You
doesn't
just like get
look.
this feeling. Like it's
Yeah,
just like weird gut feeling as the mom. I feel like you just
yeah,
like
yeah. And I was training for a marathon at the time, and I had my half marathon like 2 weeks after I found out I was pregnant. And so I was really debating like do I give this up? And it was just so weird. So I was like extra monitored early on just so that because I did the Lovenox with that pregnancy. Anyways, I decided to run and I woke up that morning and I was like, I had no symptoms. I was like, I know I'm not pregnant. Fast forward, I was still pregnant the following week. We still had the heartbeat. Long story short, at around 8.5 weeks, I miscarried the baby like in my kitchen, and it was just like out of nowhere. But gosh, I forgot all this happened. That's when they thought I had balanced translocation after
oh my gosh,
after like 4 years of not giving me an answer. So they thought I had balanced translocation because we genetically tested the baby, and I think we've talked about it on podcasts before, but like that's when you have to like keep the tissue in your refrigerator overnight. And I remember you're gonna have to, is it Labor? No, Labor Day that's in May or Memorial Day? La
Memorial Day is in May.
okay,
Labor Day is in September. Yeah, yeah,
that's right. That's right. That's right. September 5th. I know the date. I just get it mixed up. So Memorial Day. So everything was closed. So we had to keep the baby in the refrigerator. It was like
which
very,
also like talk about like such a weird mind F. Like
it is.
you have to like carry the baby and
Yeah.
literally put it in the fridge and like open
Well,
your
and
fridge for breakfast and then
yeah,
aside
and
the baby. Like,
find something to put it in. And then you're like, oh my gosh, like my child's in this like Tupperware container. And that is like, I think we might have talked about it on the podcast at the very end of season 3, but I think you remember the only other time I had a natural miscarriage where I was like far enough along for like the sac to come out, I flushed the toilet immediately. And I remember like I was like, I will never do that again. I was so angry in the moment. And then this time I was like, no, I'm gonna get tested. And I also wanted to get tested because I was like, okay, is it me? Or was it the baby? Like, was it something like with me, my hormones, my uterus, whatever, or was it the baby? And it came back, it was trisomy 2, like a mosaic. I went back and just read it recently. It was like mosaic trisomy 2 or whatever, super rare. And because it was so rare, they thought I had balanced translocation, which Josh and I had like already had ruled out. We had already done the karyotyping. They made us, I mean, gosh, remember it was like a month or two of testing and waiting.
literally.
And so
Like
we did,
thousands of dollars and
yeah,
like so much money
yeah.
too.
It was I think it was $1,200 each. And so it was really annoying actually because I got tested. That's because Josh didn't have insurance. Okay. So I got tested and they made us do high resolution chromosome testing, which looking back, I really don't know if that I just kind of feel like that was like left field because I'm looking back, they look at the bands of the chromosomes on the babies and like on
Mhm.
the DNA. And I don't know, they all suggested it. My REI suggested we did it, the MFM did, the OB. So I got tested, mine came back completely normal, which had taken like 5 weeks. And when mine came back normal, they're like, your husband has to get tested to rule this out. So then we waited like another 5 weeks. But his came back normal. So we were like, okay, so we still have no answers. And at that point, we had had another chemical pregnancy. So we didn't get pregnant in June. And then we got pregnant in July. And that was like super quick. Did I even text you about that one? It was
I think
like, yeah, probably. It was like 4 days. Like I got the positive. Then I was like stopped training because I was scared. And then like the test got really, really light. And so at that point, then I made Josh do the DNA sperm fragmentation, remember? And they like
but also
shipped us
big
like
thing.
a horse. Yeah.
Yes.
It
Like
was
all
like
the
a horse
funniest. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, the guy asked if we had horses that lived here. I think other listeners reached out. They're like, yeah, my husband did that too. But we were convinced that it was DNA sperm fragmentation. We were like, it's got to be Josh. And you know what? I don't know. It could be. Who knows? But it came back. That was like another 2 months. It came back completely normal. Um, and I think at the time I like kind of quit trying. Like you were in the midst of like waiting on IVF and doing stuff, and I wasn't really trying. And we went to California in September for 2 weeks. Oh my gosh, I don't know. I always forget who listens to this podcast. I probably probably not going to share some things. We went to California and there was my daughter turns 2 on September 29th, and that was the day I was ovulating. And we were not in a spot that we could try to have a baby, especially because it was like the three of us traveling. We were visiting family, we were in hotels, and I was like, you know what? Like, it's fine. Let's just wait. It's really like not a big deal. And at like I'm telling you, like the 11th hour, like it was like 10 o'clock. We had already like gotten in bed. Brooklyn was asleep. We were done. Josh was like, let's just try. And I was like, okay, I'm not gonna like say no. You know,
No,
like
yeah,
deep down, we always want
yeah,
it.
of
Like
course
we
you want
always
to.
want the chance to get pregnant. And that's
Yeah.
how we got pregnant this time, which is
Oh
crazy.
my
Yeah.
gosh.
I can't remember. I do remember I texted my friend. I don't think she listens to our podcast, but I texted my college friend Caroline because she's always been so invested. She has three girls. She's been like really invested in like the stick, like the pee stick. She never had infertility, but she's like, well, how many DPO or is it positive? And I
God,
texted
that's
her.
so sweet.
It's really sweet. I think I texted her like maybe one day before I texted you, just because I wasn't sure. I remember we popped on the podcast, and that's what it was. It was the last episode for season 3, and we were going to do a recap. And I popped on, and you're like, "Are you pregnant?" And I was like,
You're like,
but
I
I didn't say anything because I was like 4 days I just didn't know.
so
But I
funny.
remember texting her. I remember seeing the line, and I texted her. I was like, I got the faintest of faint lines ever. And she said, she's like, send me the picture. And I remember I sent her the picture and I was mortified. I mean, it was stark white. Like the lines you've sent me, you can see it was the
Yeah.
starkest of whites ever. And she's like, yeah, that looks great. I mean, I think she was like, I don't see anything, but I believe you. And I
I'm
was,
sure
yeah,
you do. Maybe
yeah.
in person. Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
I did.
God.
I was like, you have to be in person. And then I think I tried to take a video of it. Anyways, I was like, for sure, chemical. Like, I think even you were asking me, did you test? And I was like, no, I'm not testing for a couple of days. But I am almost 17 weeks pregnant and feel
I,
horrible. But I mean, fingers crossed that I still like, I know you were like this with Ben. I, it's honestly like I don't know. I don't know if I forgot that I was like this with Brooklyn, or I just feel like no way in hell am I going to have two healthy kids. So I don't know. I feel like I'm just waiting for the shoe to drop.
it's not going to. It's gonna be good. Literally.
We'll see. But yeah, I guess that's my update. Oh well, I guess the only other update to that is I did the Lovenox. I started the Lovenox. I almost like the miscarriage in May. I was on Lovenox and I like stockpiled it up because they weren't giving it to me until I had two betas that were trending and a first ultrasound to make sure that the baby was like not ectopic. And I get it because Lovenox can like make you bleed. But
Yeah, but that's so frustrating because like that could be what's helping just even get to that point.
exactly because I've had so many like miscarriages before that 7 week mark, or I mean, I've even had a handful of chemical pregnancies before the 6 week mark. And so I was like, okay, this is terrifying. Maybe that's why I'm having the losses. But with Brooklyn, I started at like 5.5 weeks. With that pregnancy in May, I started at the 5.5 weeks. So, anyways, I stockpiled up and I literally took my first shot like at 10 DPO because I wasn't risking it. And I do attribute the loss in May. I always tell Josh, I'm like, maybe that gave us this baby because I had the medications to like keep her alive. I know. I really do kind of feel that way though, because I wouldn't have had them otherwise. And so yeah, so long story short, I'm still doing them today. And I did not do them this long with Brooklyn, but I went to MFM on December 17th. This is January 3rd. And they were like, you know what? Maybe you do have a blood clotting disorder, or like maybe you do have some bizarre reason to do the Lovenox, which so she's like, let's just test you while you're pregnant. Because I've been tested
For everything.
10 times, I think, over the last 5 years for like factor 5, lupus, APS. I've been tested for all like the different types of blood clotting and they all were negative. But I guess some
Which,
people,
for side note, I like just thought of this. So the APS is the antiphospholates and
yes.
or what?
Yeah.
So I've had that come back positive before.
Are you serious?
Mhm.
You
And
100
then they retested me and then it was negative. So I don't know if it was like a false positive, but it's in my account, like or my chart that this was when I was first getting diagnosed with lupus. It just made me think of it when you just said it because I haven't
Yeah.
like heard I don't know that phrase in a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it came back positive one time. But
So
I had
that's
negative for factor 5 and then but I've had the antiphospholate syndrome or whatever it's called.
what I
And that
get.
has been positive when I had like all of my like lupus markers were all like crazy. It was like at my like peak of like lupus,
Right.
like
That's
I don't know.
wild. I
Super
think
side
that's
note.
well, no, but I think that's really interesting. And but you didn't do Lovenox or any blood thinner with Ben, right? Okay, so like that's
Nothing.
kind of my thing of okay, a couple things. So typically if it does come back positive, you have to do another test, like a secondary. So that's interesting that you had it positive than negative.
But then
I've
I
never
did. They gave it, yeah. So they
you
did
did
a second
second.
one, and the second one was negative. So then they just thought it was a false positive.
Right. Okay, that's crazy. We'd love
And
to
it could
hear.
have. Who knows?
Yeah, I
But
would love to hear from listeners. Like I heard when I posted on the story that like they were finally going to test me when I was pregnant. I posted number one. Oh my God, if I am, how did Brooklyn survive when I stopped at 14 weeks? You
yeah,
know,
no, honestly.
and
Yeah.
same with Ben, like if you had it, like how did he even like get there? Uh, but then the second thing was so many listeners came back and they said when they went to reproductive immunology, they were always negative, but then when they finally got positive pregnancy tests, they were immediately tested and the markers tested as positive, and so then they would go on the blood thinners.
So has yours come back yet?
No, that's what I was about to say. It literally, I think they lost it. I mean, you had a shit show with LabCorp this time. So did I. It's been, they told me the absolute latest it would return is January 2nd, and I don't have it back, and it's the 3rd. So I'm like, the one time I literally I'm waiting on labs to stop medication. They can't get it together.
You can get it.
Yeah. But
That
that's where
is so,
I'm
oh my gosh.
at. That's
Why
the
do you
one
freaking
reason.
have it? Then like Brooklyn is truly a miracle. I mean, she already is a
Yeah.
miracle, but like even more so.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really weird. I don't know. I'll update you guys if I ever get it back. I guess I'll just have to go get it drawn again, which is so annoying. But I'm still doing the shots.
I feel like that's a big like answer.
Yeah.
You know,
Or
like a
like
big
now I'm terrified to stop like I did with Brooklyn because now I'm like, okay, well, what I
yeah,
don't know what to do.
that is wild.
Okay, enough about me. That's where we're at. And you did your first transfer in May. So really we've restarted our fertility stuff back in early
Yeah.
this.
And I think we shared a little bit, like everyone I think pretty much knows I had the chemical in May.
Yes.
And then I had to do, because obviously we only then had one embryo left. So then they wanted to like do it, throw everything at it. So they did the Emma Alice and the like ERA biopsy thing or whatever. And it came back with like some endometriosis. So they put me on like the Lupron depot shot or whatever it is. And then I was traveling a bunch, so we like had to push off our last transfer till December. And then we're in January now. And so I had to do my transfer in December, which holy shit is like a whole thing in itself. I like still am processing it all, to be honest. But
Oh, I'm
um
sure.
yeah, so we did all the injections. I did everything this time. I did like the Lovenox, I did prednisone. So I did the autoimmune protocol, which is shocking that I've never been on it before with being on lupus. Like I'm shocked I didn't already do that like
Yeah,
protocol in
me
itself.
too.
But yeah, so everything was good. I was doing 2 weeks of the progesterone and oil, which this to me is what is wild, is I was on the progesterone and oil prior to my transfer for 2 weeks
Yeah.
with no issue.
And
No reaction. I was on this one with Ben my whole freaking pregnancy for whatever. What is it? 10 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever
yeah,
it is,
yeah.
with no issues. I was on it even in the transfer in May and had
That's
no,
right. Because I was going to ask about that. So I mean, it's not like it's you've never taken it or you had only taken it for 14
yeah.
days.
And so basically, so what for people who are listening, if you didn't see my Instagram stories on our podcast, I had like an insane allergic reaction. Like my entire, well, they think it's an allergic reaction, but my entire body was like in hives, swelling. My entire face swelled up. I mean, my sister was like laughing because she said I looked like a cat. Like I like literally my face like changed shape. Like
That is
it was
that is
it's
typical sister response when you're going through like my
no, I
throat
mean, she was
swelling.
at the hospital. Don't get me wrong. She was with me,
Going to the
but
ED, but you look
like
like a cat.
literally look like a cat. Like you look like a, I don't know, whatever. But no, so I was on progesterone and oil, which is the one that was in sesame oil. And like I was just saying, I had been on it in the transfer in May with no reaction at all. And I had a positive pregnancy test.
Mhm.
So that, and then I was on it obviously the whole time with Ben. So I did my transfer, everything went great. 3 days later, which is like implantation realistically, is when my body started to like have a reaction. And so now at that point I've been already on the progesterone and oil for like maybe 15 days. And so like started with just like I said, like a rash on my like legs, and then it started, and then it was like all over. And I like
Okay,
it was
wait, real
bad.
quick. So when I was like trying to do research for you with you, I
Oh,
always heard that the reaction would be like at the injection site mostly, and then it kind of goes out from there. But yours was just like everywhere.
no, it was my entire body was covered. Like literally, like it first started. So honestly, not to be weird, but like I had shaved like
Yeah.
my crotch area, the
Yeah.
whole thing. And I thought so because it started right
Razor
there on
burn.
like my bikini line. And so I thought it was just that's literally the first place I saw it. And I was like changing
Weird.
my sister's over, and I was like, oh, I just shaved. Like I think I got like a like razor burn or
Yeah.
whatever. And it started there, and I showed her, and she was like, "Oh yeah, it looks like razor burn." And then I looked at my armpits, and it was also on my armpit. So in my head, I was like, "Oh, this is just
Razors.
clear from my razor."
Yeah.
And then obviously, like hours later, it escalated, and then it covered my entire body. And by the next morning, I mean, my whole face was swollen, my lips were huge, my eyes were swollen, like
Well, you
it was.
texted me that you had the reaction and you're like, this isn't good. And then you just sent me a picture like 4 hours later, and I was like, oh my God, that is a reaction. I thought you like
It
had
kept
some
getting
like,
worse.
yeah, I thought you had like hives. Like, no, you like that was emergent, that was ED, like go right now.
Yeah, no, like, and if I hadn't done anything, I think it probably would have eventually gone to my throat. I think it was like a slower, like, it wasn't like, how like some people they like eat something and then it's
Immediate.
like instant. No, it was like a very slow over like the course of 2 days. But if I would have just kept it going, it for sure would have like gone to my like throat
Okay,
and
so you
stuff.
go to the emergency room because I don't think you
Go to
shared
the
this.
emergency room. I like get, and the thing is that morning I like tested too. So I got a very, very faint positive. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm like
Well,
pregnant.
it showed
Obviously.
up in the picture to me, so it wasn't that faint. It was
So
darker than
I like tell the ER that I'm pregnant. They draw a freaking like they do all the blood work, they do all these labs, they do an HCG test, which I'm still so annoyed at this point. Like, but it is what it is. Like, there's nothing I can change about it. But he just did a like negative or positive like beta. He didn't do like a number, like a
what do
numerical
they
one
call it?
or
Like the
quantitative
qualitative or
or
instead of the
qualitative,
quant?
whatever.
Yeah, it just says yes or no. Those are the worst. You're like, no, I don't
Yeah.
know how pregnant.
Yeah, I'm like, no, I want to know. And I even then asked him to like retest it. And he was like, I don't think you want to do that. You're going to obsess over the number, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. And like, he was very sweet. Like, he actually, him and his wife had gone through like
I was gonna
treatment.
say that's like really good for an ED doc to say.
And he was like, you don't want to do this. And so, like, I appreciate it. But like, now, like, I wanted to do it because I wish I knew that like beta, like, from the start to see
Right.
the progression. But
Right.
I, it's fine. But basically, they just pumped me with like Benadryl through IV, steroids, the whole thing. They tested
And
me
you
from
were
like for
and you were
things.
kind of having to like go back to your REI at the ED, right? Because like you're on all these meds, you're now pregnant. They're probably like, what do we do?
Yeah, so he obviously is like, I don't specialize in infertility. Like, I don't know like all like the ins and outs of the drugs you're on. Like, this is like what I would suggest, but like, I need to also talk with your like fertility doctor, who also lives in Michigan. Now we're on the weekend, and clinics like are obviously like
And it's
closed. We're also
holidays.
around the holidays. This is literally Christmas. Like, so it was just a shit show.
God.
Thankfully, she was on call, and he was able to like get a hold of her, and they were able to like come up with a plan. So they suggested that I get off of they thought, because how like sesame oil is like in one of the top five like allergens in medication, that they thought that it was possibly like a delayed reaction to sesame oil, which I'm like, I've never been allergic to it. I eat
What do
it.
you think? Do
I've
you
been
think
on it. I know what it is in my heart that this was an autoimmune response. Like,
do the
I know I'm
implementation?
not allergic. Like,
Yeah.
there's no freaking way. Like, I was pregnant with Ben that whole time. I think my body was just like, we're not doing this. We
Yeah.
are accepting this baby. It
Yeah.
was too coincidental
Yeah.
that
That it started.
it was like right when like implantation really started. And I know I was getting positive right around then. Like
Yeah.
I could feel symptoms. Like I knew I was like, it was implanting.
And that's a
And
thing. I mean, our bodies try to reject like foreign object, like foreign.
100%.
Yeah.
And the ER doctor was like, hey, I'm going to be honest, it can be either one. He was like, this
Oh,
can be an immune response that your body is just like freaking out, or it could be an allergic reaction. And he's like, there's literally no way to know without us either
trying.
stopping all of you, stopping your meds entirely. And I was like, I'm not doing that. I
Well,
literally flat out told him.
I remember I was texting Courtney because I was like, she's there, and Courtney, your sister, and she's like, they just suggested that she stop all her meds. I was like, well, I know she's not going to do that.
I literally told him, I was like, I will just keep taking the progesterone and oil, like the sesame oil, if you don't prescribe me something else. So give me another option. I was
Right.
like, I'll keep blowing up. I don't care.
I mean,
Like,
can you
that's
imagine?
not
I literally just asked you if you could imagine. Yeah, you could. You literally were there. But like you're on your last embryo, they're telling you like so and I was telling Josh this like it you were in a unique situation. It wasn't like I went into the doctor and they were like stop all your meds and you're gonna not. It's like okay, well, I guess we could try again. You're like no, this is like it. I'm gonna do
that
it.
is what I think is like the biggest thing that like no one is really grasping. Like you obviously are getting it, like
Yeah.
obviously. But like I think it's just a huge like other component to it that I'm like, this is not just like another embryo. And I'm not minimizing anyone else's last embryo or like anyone else's just
I mean,
pregnancy in
I
general,
minimize
not
my
like
own
at all.
yeah, like I
But
minimize my
like
own situation when hearing this. The
I'm like,
magnitude of
just
it.
this is the last chance Ben will ever get a fully biological sibling. Like I can't just create it again. The donors don't do it anymore. Like I literally can't ever get it. We obviously can't get pregnant on our own, so I'm not going to do IVF. One, I like clearly am not able to now like hold pregnancies because like my body is rejecting them. So I'm like, then we would have to get a surrogate. Like there's just like there's
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
I'm like this literally was it. Like I
Yeah.
can't just go make another baby. I
Right.
can't. I mean, we can go adopt more embryos, but then it's like not his
It's just
biological.
different.
Like
It's a
there, it's
different
just a whole
situation.
different, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just, yeah, like I said, it was just a whole other like pressure on it that I'm like, we're not stopping. I will
Yeah.
do everything in my power to keep trying to like
And you
sustain this.
did. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. But yes. So fast forward, we go home. My hives kind of stop the next day. My hives all come back. I had changed the progesterone. They suggested I do progesterone in like ethyl oil or
Yeah. Yeah.
ethylolate or something like that. I don't
Right.
really know. I think it's like olive oil versus or something. I don't know. But a different oil. But that took days to come in because it's like a specialty pharmacy. It was the holiday weekend. They were closed on the weekend. So they suggested in the meantime I do suppositories. So I was doing that, which was fine. And then, but all my hives came back the next day, and I was like my whole body was like fully going at it again. And at this point, I'm like testing like a psychopath.
Mhm.
So I'm just obviously taking tests at home, and like my line is still dark, like I can still see it, but like
It was
I
not
am
a squinter. Like you could
no,
technically
you
be and
can
it was
easily,
there. Yeah.
but I felt at this point it was still like not darkening like it was like with Ben. So I was just like starting to be like, I think my body is saying no.
Right.
But we went back to the ER. Everything is great. Still pregnant. They give me a whole nother dose of everything. My hives get better.
And this is on
Come home.
like December 23rd, right? Like this is the day before Christmas Eve.
Yes, it's literally a shit
God.
show. Yes.
Oh,
So basically, and like obviously you don't want to be around anyone, and it's like freaking holidays. And to top it off, I love my sister-in-law, but she is pregnant, and I'm so happy for her because they like went through IVF too. But like I don't want to see pregnant people, and
and
like
like
everyone's
we're
like in the family is so excited for her, but they're like so it's just like this weird tiptoe situation.
and
Like
they
we kept
probably knew you had the transfer, but then they like did it
Oh,
for
I mean, yes,
us.
everyone knew, and everyone is like, "We're you guys are going to be pregnant together." Like
Oh,
all of so
oh,
like his siblings, like his brother already has older kids, and so like she's the youngest, and so we were like, "This is perfect." Like one of her kids at least will be like the same age as ours, and because they're everyone else is older.
God.
And so like everyone is just talking about like next year the babies will be here together for Christmas and it was just a lot. And I am like very realistic, I think, in situations where my family they mean well, but they're very optimistic in like the
Not,
sweetest way.
yeah, yeah.
And
Our
they're like,
husbands are,
it's
right?
gonna be great. Like like it's saying it's positive, it is positive. You are pregnant. And I'm like, I'm telling you no. Like it's not ending well. Like I'm literally telling people this and they think I'm like just being
That's
negative
so
about because of
difficult.
everything.
Yeah,
And
that's so
no,
difficult.
I'm telling you, I don't feel like this is good.
Yeah.
Which is so wild because I left that transfer with them.
You
I
texted
was
me,
so
it's gonna
confident. I said,
work.
I know this
Yeah,
worked.
yeah, yeah,
Like I was so confident. And I mean it did. It worked.
right.
But sorry, I'm like all over the place.
No, you're not. I'm listening. Like, I think like you were so confident until like you woke up that morning and you were like, I have to go to the emergency room. Like, what the
Yeah,
heck?
like my body is saying no.
And
Like I just
anybody, yeah. And
no.
I think like, I don't even know, like, say you didn't have lupus and like say that you say it was something that was totally unrelated. Like, I don't know, like you broke your leg or something, but you just think like, okay, my body's not in prime condition and I had to, everything had to be perfect. And like,
Well,
I don't,
that's the thing. Like I'm like I don't need inflammation. Like that's the worst thing I can have for my body when I'm trying to like a baby's trying to implant.
right,
And my body is in full freaking inflammation hives everywhere. I'm like this is not optimal. Like this is
right.
literally the worst like space that a baby is gonna want to like actually stay in. You know what I mean? So I'm like,
Yeah. I mean, I remember I texted you. I was like, if it makes you feel better, I got bit by a bee, stung by a bee when I was early. But I can't even
but
imagine the
yeah, yeah,
smallest, like, I got stung by a bee and I had a full-blown spiral attack looking up how far can a bee sting affect your early pregnancy? But
true,
like,
yes.
yeah, and
Yeah.
yours is on like the whole other full magnitude. So of course you're switching from this is it's gonna work to I'm out.
Yeah. So, long story short, I went and got my beta. It came back positive, but it was a very low. My beta came back only at 17. So, definitely low,
You were
but
early, you tested
it could
very
literally go either way. They're
yeah.
like, it can genuinely, if it doubles, like it can still, and of course, this is when you start obsessing. And I'm on all the IVF support groups on Facebook looking at low beta number trends. And like, I am like
And
crazy on
it was
Reddit, on
probably hard to find, right? Because you did a seven. You didn't you they tested you way early, like 4 days early, right? Or 3 days.
yeah, so I did 7 days post transfer. Normally is between like 10 and 12, I
Yeah.
would say. And I was going to do 10-day, but they did 7 day because I was at the hospital and I had gotten a positive. So they just pushed it up. They're like, oh, well, we're already seeing positive like blood work. Then let's just do it at 7 day. Plus, it was the holidays. So they were like, let's do it earlier
Yeah.
before Christmas. So anyway, yes, it was 17. And at that point, I like did a digital and that came back pregnant. So I'm like, okay, maybe it is like going up. And then
Yeah.
I'm just like watching my friends like the whole time of my lines. And it is just lightning and lightning. And I knew. Everyone else is super optimistic. And of course, my second beta was until the day after Christmas. It was on the 26th. So we're with the whole family Christmas Day, and everyone is just like, well, you're pregnant today, which is like very sweet. And I'm like, I'm happy that I had that moment. Like, his name is Brooks, but like with him, and that I got to like even
Talk
just for a
about
moment be
him.
pregnant and just,
Yeah.
yeah, like acknowledge his life
Yeah.
and all that. But then we did beta the 26th and I literally could start crying. It's still so fresh, but yeah, it was negative. So it completely my numbers just completely was done. So I knew my body 100% won. And it was like we are not accepting this pregnancy. So
That's so hard. I'm so sorry. I honestly like just shocked you could even just talk about it. Like,
it sucks, I won't lie. I'm like I actually start therapy on Monday.
good.
So I'm excited we're gonna do that. But yeah, it's still a mind F. I like feel like I don't want to be around anyone. I'm like, this is definitely the year that I'm like needing of healing.
Yeah.
Um, and just like shifting everything. I mean, I just had so many like life like I don't even know. Like I just pictured this whole life with Ben and his brother and like all this stuff. And like first I picture it with Ben and his brothers, and then I had to shift that to just Ben and his brother. And I'm like, there's no way that there's a world that I literally just have one kid. Like I just can't even.
Right.
And I know there's still so many other things that we could do to get more siblings, but we're not there. But
Yeah.
um,
And that's okay. I mean, gosh, this was a week ago. Like this was a freaking week ago. And like not to mention that you have had these three embryos, like Brooks, Blake, Ben for
yeah,
what, 4 years? Three and a half
yes.
years?
This whole time I've
Four
just
years.
envisioned this whole life of three sons. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, I am a boy mom. This is like what I'll always have. And I just pictured, and because Ben worked, I just like always
Yeah.
thought I could carry it. I just couldn't create it. And so it's
Well,
just been,
yeah. I mean, I
uh,
remember you were pregnant and had a child before I ever was successfully pregnant, and I was like so jealous. I'm like, oh, she figured it out. Like she has her embryos now, and like she's just able to carry it. Like
oh,
try,
same.
like they figured it out. And yeah, like I mean, number one, like how I know because I've we've talked, but like how insanely like miraculous is that? Like Ben is here, and it was like it worked. He was the embryo you guys chose to transfer the first time, and your body was ready. And like, wow.
100%. He is like even, and we always have called him our miracle boy, but like even more so now, Chris and I are just in awe at him of like he just fought his way to get here. Like
Yeah.
he is genuinely meant to be our son. And if it is just him, like we are just so thankful and grateful that we even get to like be parents and he made
Yeah.
us that. And so like, yeah, we're
Well,
just really grateful.
I'm really proud of you for already like signing up with a therapist. That's awesome. And I'm very interested if like as the year goes on, if you can like share things you learn. Because I signed up for
Oh, for sure.
yeah, I don't even know if Josh knows this, and he doesn't listen to our podcast. He tries. I bet you he'll listen to this one because I'm
Yeah.
going to say this. But I started doing therapy for my losses like I don't know, right after the May one, and
Yeah.
because it all just like came back way too quickly, and I wasn't ready. I will say I have not gotten out of it what I wanted to, just because like I think it's just this, it's a magnitude. I mean, you're not gonna like
Be healed overnight. Yeah.
be healed overnight. And I think I was kind of like expecting, I was going every week, and there's just like more things that kept popping up. And so then they like, talk about surface stuff, but I'm very interested. Like, and I never, I don't know, I think you did a really good job grieving Shiloh, your first baby. Like, I don't feel like I ever did a good job because I just went back to back to back. So it'd be really
Sure.
interesting to see what you learn.
Yeah. No, I'm excited. I'm like, I just know like the May one, I just like pushed through and I just like was like, okay, let's just move to the next thing. Like I just need to get pregnant, which you obviously you can relate to.
Yeah.
And I feel like I didn't process it because I was just holding on to the fact of like there's one more. Like there's just
Yeah.
one more baby at least. Like at least we'll have another. And now that that's like just completely gone, I'm just like, okay, I need to like genuinely process like what life it will be like and just like the healing of just all the losses and
Yeah.
everything. So,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
I'm excited.
That's
I'm
awesome.
trying to just be like process everything in a really healthy manner. Like
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
want to just like I don't want anything to come up like later. I just want to like truly grieve it, truly process it, like feel whatever I'm feeling and like it'd be okay.
That's
So,
awesome.
I don't know. But
This is probably like a weird question, but like, did you have to like report back to the donor family like your outcome? Was that weird?
yes, and that's like a whole other thing. Thankfully, they're so sweet, so like sorry for us and just like very sad for us. I, of course, was like sobbing to Chris, and I'm like, they probably regret picking us because like we didn't even get to have all three of them. They probably wish they picked another family. But this is like what I'm genuinely like. I'm like,
Right.
oh, they probably hate us because like we couldn't fulfill what they gave us.
I'm over here
But
shaking my head like that would have never
yeah,
crossed my mind, but like,
they're very sweet. They were like, we're just so grateful you have Ben. Like they were very just like saddened.
right.
But yes, but I do have to report and like let them know.
Oh wait, but you guys, I literally think that my labs came back just now.
What the fuck?
I'm not, I'm gonna open the email.
Serious?
It's either gonna be, it's for my MFM doctor. It just popped up, and it's either gonna say, oh my God. It's
That's
either,
so weird.
whoa.
Live. Which
It's
one
either
is
gonna
live?
say, I bet you it's gonna say, sorry, they lost your labs. I guarantee you that's what it's gonna say. Okay, it's literally loading. I can't breathe.
Gosh, I'm literally dying for you right now. Wait, what are the odds?
Hold on. It says sorry for the delay. Hold on. No, okay, sorry for the delay. This is such a good office to check for me. I never even reached out. I just spoke to LabCorp and they assured me the lupus panel, APS, will be back no later than 1/8. Again, really apologies for the delay. Okay, we don't have it yet, guys.
Dang
But
it.
they
I thought,
checked.
I was like, come on, that would have been perfect timing to tell us live.
What's so funny is my mom is like this like Southern, I mean, you know my mom, like Southern passive, and she sends me an email a text this morning. I've been getting like these massive migraines. So she's like, I hope you're doing okay, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, I can't wait for you to share the results of your blood clotting disorder. So that hope, and I'm like, Mom, like she's like asking me for them, but not, you know,
Not
Mom,
so sweet. You're like, I don't have them yet. I'm
I
not
don't
not
have
too
them. I'm not processing anything. I just literally don't have them. Okay.
ever. I love her.
Where okay, so that was our life. And I was not
God,
gonna say in a
that's what's
nutshell.
happening. Yeah.
It wasn't really in a nutshell. Um, we were booked out already for season 4. Like cool.
Same.
Kind of cool and like kind of like overwhelming. I think we had one person cancel and we were like, yes. That was the day you ended up in the emergency room.
Yeah, so it ended up working out because I would
I,
not have been there.
I remember texting you the day before. I was like, hey, she canceled. Do you want me to like move somebody else up? And we're like, you know what? Let's just have a really chill Saturday. And then you're like,
I'm like, well, good thing because I was not home.
yes. But we
But no,
recorded.
I've been recording like crazy. And obviously, like Kat said, we are booked through what, like June?
Yeah, actually, we're booked past my due date. So I was gonna be like, solo.
She's
Um, but
or so
yeah, yeah, but no, yeah, like almost into July. So no more. If we do have people cancel, maybe we'll reach out, maybe not. But we've done some really good ones. I think at least one person we recorded with didn't sh I'm not gonna even do the spoiler alert. One person we recorded with has an awesome ending to her podcast. And then Balance Friends. That one's gonna kick us off after this episode. Um, yeah, they are holistic, I don't want to say nurse practitioners. They're holistic practitioners that help women in the infertility space, like with gut and hormone detoxes. But it was
yeah.
really interesting. Like I learned a lot, so I'm excited for that one for sure.
Oh my gosh, wait, I like totally missed a huge part.
Oh, let's go back. I can piece it all in there.
No, no, it's just like
Yeah,
life is shit.
yeah.
Like my mother-in-law.
Okay, I didn't miss that, but I was like, I
Oh,
don't know if she
no, I
understood.
know. I mean, we're like, it's an open book now at this point. But so just sorry to like circle it back, but
This is,
all at the time.
yeah.
So we find out like on that Thursday, the 26th, that we are not pregnant, that like the beta or whatever went down and all that stuff. But on top of that, which my mother-in-law is literally an angel on earth. She is like my best friend. I've known her since I was 15. Like she is just truly an angel, a saint. Um,
And you lived
but
with her. You've been
yeah,
in
we
fertility.
lived with them for freaking years. Like, I mean, when I say close, like she's literally my one of my best friends. But yes, we did find out that she has stage 4 cancer, ovarian cancer. So that was like my poor husband. I have never seen him like just so broken in a day. Like he literally just kept looking at me saying, this is just the worst day of my life.
Yeah.
Cause like he always tries to be strong for the pregnancy stuff, like in the IVF stuff for me. He's always like, okay, like what can I do for you? Like he's just always trying to like help me through it. And he processes on his own, like, and he does his own thing. But like I think it always is just kind of hits me harder just because like I was the one pregnant or I was the one that like lost the baby or whatever it may be. So like he's always trying to be strong for me. So it was like his wife, his baby, and then his mom.
Right.
It was just like
Well,
all in one.
I think you like forgot the timeline too, because I shared with my mom and I was like, I texted Amanda at 2 o'clock and was like, do you have any results? And because I knew you had gotten the first results around 3 o'clock 2 days prior, and you had texted me, no, we literally just found out that, my mother-in-law has cancer,
Literally.
ovarian
Yeah.
cancer. And then you're like, I'll probably get a call in about an hour. And I think like 40 minutes later, you texted me that you got the call. And so because my mom was like, how is she doing? And I said, I think that like the miscarriage and the loss is honestly like secondary right now because it was like she can't
I
process the
think,
first news. Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know
Because it
that.
was such a shock. We were not expecting that. My mother-in-law was not, no one was expecting this call at all.
Yeah.
And so we all just like rushed over to her house. house because we needed to like obviously see her and be with her and like figure out what the hell is going on. And then I got the call while I was at their house. So that was like also so hard. Like his siblings are in the house. His sister that's pregnant is in the house. And me and Chris just like walk out of the room and they all just hear me like on the floor hyperventilating, crying. Like, I mean, and like, which is also like so like hard and weird that I'm like literally like hysterical crying in front of like all of them. And, you know, it's just, which they're great. I'm so close with them and like,
Yeah. But
whatever,
gosh,
it's
like
fine. But it was just like, so,
talk
yeah,
about like comparing situations too, because I'm sure you felt like a tang of guilt of just like, okay, I shouldn't be crying about this because she has this, but I'm here and I
it's
still,
all, yes,
this is the most
100%.
important thing in my life. Like, yeah, oh God.
And of course, they're all so amazing. And like literally, like Chris, I like she has like two exits out of her bedroom, like a hidden like one out of the laundry room. And I was just like, I just like need a second.
Yeah.
And Chris like walks out or whatever, and like everyone is just like crying for us. Like they are just like my mother-in-law is just like just work like take care of her, worry about her. This is what you need to focus on, which is just like so sweet when she just got the worst news of her entire life. Like she just got hit with this diagnosis. And so I mean, I'm just so thankful for them, but it's just, yeah. So that's been a whole other thing we're still navigating and figuring out now in the new year. Obviously, chemo is going to start. And so it's just been honestly crazy. We're all like, what the hell kind of ending to 2024
Yeah.
did we just get?
Like
Like,
the
this
last
is
couple days. Yeah. Well, like prayers and hope to a really healing 2025. Gosh, you have so much going on.
literally, but she's super optimistic, really good
Me
spirits.
too.
And like, now we're like, okay,
We're gonna
now we're
fight
both
this.
texting each other that we're like, we send each other like prayers and just like all super crunchy, holistic like foods and all the things. And so
Hey,
now we are just going to heal ourselves. This year is like the year of healing. So, yeah.
gosh. Well, I feel like we should end on that note. That's a great note. Like that's not a great note, but it's a great
Yeah.
note that like we're like it is going to be positive this year. We're going to move forward and heal and like 2024 was like just wild.
Wild. Yeah.
Anyways, we will we will have episodes airing every Monday. They normally go live. We always tell you guys that they go live at 7 a.m., but I always feel like I put it live at like 5 just to like see like
Make
if
sure.
make sure
Same.
that it hits. Yeah. So if you want to check in a little earlier, but yeah, we should have episodes every Monday. And I don't know, we have so many guests this year. I think you and I will try to pop on and talk about stuff, but I mean, let's give Amanda a break in January. Like, let's not talk about this anymore. We have some really, really great guests. I think we already have at least 2 months worth of recordings out. So maybe we'll pop in again in March, early March, and give you guys an update.
Yeah. That sounds good. We're so excited.